2019.
So will you unredact this? Will you
were
unredact
lead
this?
counsel on that. Privileged.
I'm asking you, will you unredact this?
Privileged.
Privileged, of course. I look forward to discussing this more. Now, these are obviously improper redactions.
Well, and let me stop for a minute.
I'm talking.
If they're not privileged,
quiet.
Don't yell at me. If they're not
Mr. Chairman, would you
privileged,
stop the clock? This is on your time. It's not on Mr. Goldman.
If they're not
Even though you used your improper redactions
you'll like my answer.
to
If we
continue
review them
to
and they're not
protect
privileged,
Donald
Time belongs to the
we will
member.
be happy to release them.
We'll stop the clock. We'll stop the clock. Time belongs to the member. Go ahead.
Even though you used improper redactions to protect Donald Trump and other predators associated with Jeffrey Epstein, you did the exact opposite thing with the survivors and victims of this scheme.
What started as a document request just detonated into a political firestorm. A lawmaker pulled out an Epstein email, accused the attorney general of hiding evidence, and the hearing spiraled into chaos, with survivors watching from the room. This is one of those moments where Americans need to pay close attention.
New York recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Bondi, I went over to the department yesterday for a couple of hours to review some of the unredacted materials. And I am looking forward to your detailed explanation for why you have withheld almost half of the documents, which is required by the bill. Now, obviously, there are 3 million documents, so I didn't get through much. But one thing I didn't see was the client list that you said you had on your desk a year ago. I did, however, find a couple of important documents. An 86-page prosecution memo from the Southern District of New York and a draft indictment from Florida against Jeffrey Epstein's co-conspirators. For reasons that I cannot understand nor are permitted by the bill, they were still redacted, even for members of Congress. So, Ms. Bondi, will you commit right here to immediately providing those two documents in unredacted form to members of Congress? Not a complicated question.
Well, I guess it is for you because you have a law degree and those are privileged.
Okay, they're not privileged, but we will discuss that later. I also found an email that I have right here from Jeffrey Epstein to Ghislaine Maxwell that was unredacted, and it included notes of statements that Donald Trump made about his prior relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Now, there is no reason for this to be hidden from the American people. There is no privilege, there is no attorney-client privilege, and I see you're checking with your staff, and I can assure you, staff, this is not under attorney-client privilege because it was sent from Jeffrey Epstein to Ghislaine Maxwell. Will you commit to publicly providing the unredacted version of this so that the American people can understand the extent of Donald Trump's lies about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein?
You're about as good of a lawyer today as you were when you tried to impeach President Trump in 2016. Have you apologized for that in 2019?
So will you unredact this? Will you
were
unredact
lead
this?
counsel on that. Privileged.
I'm asking you, will you unredact this?
Privileged.
Privileged, of course. I look forward to discussing this more. Now, these are obviously improper redactions.
Well, and let me stop for a minute.
I'm talking.
If they're not privileged,
quiet.
Don't yell at me. If they're not
Mr. Chairman, would you
privileged,
stop the clock? This is on your time. It's not on Mr. Goldman.
If they're not
Even though you
privileged,
used your
if we review
improper
them and they're not-
redactions
you'll like my answer.
to
If we
continue
review
to
them and they're not
protect
privileged,
Donald
Time belongs to the
we will
member.
be happy to release them.
We'll stop the clock. We'll stop the clock. Time belongs to the member. Go ahead.
Even though you used improper redactions to protect Donald Trump and other predators associated with Jeffrey Epstein, you did the exact opposite thing with the survivors and victims of this scheme. So their identification information was really the only thing required to be redacted, and it was not. And it's clear this was not a mistake. This was not by accident. This was not because you only had 30 days when you really used 75, and that doesn't even include all the hours last March that you were redacting it. But I'll tell you why it's clear it wasn't a mistake. There is an email entitled Epstein Victim List. There are 32 names. One is redacted. 31 are not. So someone looked at it and decided to redact something. And I will tell you that that is clearly intentional to intimidate these survivors and victims. Now, in an interview last week—
How will you tell me that's intentional?
In an interview last week, Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche—
You can't go off script.
said that any victim that wants to speak with the department has done so, hopefully. Well, thanks to the incredibly brave people sitting here behind you, we can actually ask them if that's true. Now, would the survivors and victims who are here please stand up one more time? Just by show of hands, how many of you or your loved ones actually have met with the Department of Justice and provided testimony and evidence? None. And of those of you who have not met, which is everyone, how many of you have reached out either individually or through a lawyer or representative to offer to provide testimony and evidence? All of them. And of those of you, all of you who have reached out, how many of you were denied or ignored by the Department of Justice? All of them. And despite the shameful and despicable efforts by Ms. Bondi and her department to intimidate you, how many of you are still willing to speak to the Department of Justice? All of them. Well, Ms. Bondi, it looks like you have some more witnesses to talk to.
Gentleman's time has expired.
And I yield back.
We will go to the good gentleman from North Carolina, Congressman Knott.
Thank
May
you.
I have a moment, Congressman?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Here we go. Here's the photograph. This is why he wanted to repeat everything that had been said previously on Epstein. This is his state, New York. You probably don't even know who this is. Wahid Mohammed from Afghanistan.
Yes, because I'm no longer a prosecutor.
Convicted of assault. Wow, he represents New York. Wow, yet he doesn't care about the illegal aliens convicted of crimes. Assault and homicide. No longer a prosecutor, so he doesn't care about his constituents. Here we go. Arson, El Salvador, Miguel Palacios. Fermin Flores Ramales, Mexico, rape.
Let's talk about the 70% of immigrants who are detained without a criminal conviction or arrest.
Stop the clock. Stop the clock. Time belongs to Congressman Knott.
This exchange wasn't just another heated congressional clash. It exposed something deeper about transparency, accountability, and the way power operates when politically explosive evidence is involved. Representative Daniel Goldman came prepared to confront Attorney General Pam Bondi over redactions in the Epstein-related document releases. And this wasn't about minor technical edits. He claimed that nearly half the materials that should have been visible under congressional mandate were withheld, including prosecution memos and draft indictments tied to Jeffrey Epstein's network. The central issue wasn't simply paperwork. It was whether Congress and the public are being allowed to see the full picture surrounding one of the most notorious trafficking cases in modern history. When Goldman raised the issue of a so-called client list that had previously been referenced but not produced, it underscored something Americans should understand about oversight. Lawmakers depend on agencies to cooperate in good faith. If documents are delayed, restricted, or heavily redacted, oversight becomes symbolic rather than functional. This is why the confrontation escalated, because transparency isn't procedural theater. It determines whether institutions are accountable or insulated. The tension reached another level when Goldman revealed he had located an email from Epstein to Ghislaine Maxwell, referencing statements attributed to Donald Trump about his past relationship with Epstein. His argument was straightforward. If there's no legal privilege attached, why should the public not see it? Bondi's response framed the materials as privileged, sparking a dispute over legal interpretation and whether the redactions were justified. This moment illustrates something Americans should pay attention to. Legal terminology like privilege can become a battlefield itself. It's not just about law, it's about who controls narrative access to information that shapes public trust. But the hearing didn't stop there. Goldman pivoted toward victim treatment, arguing that while powerful figures' information was shielded, identifying details about survivors were inadequately protected. That accusation struck at a fundamental justice principle that victims should be protected while alleged perpetrators are investigated without favoritism. Whether viewers agree with the claim or not, the exchange forces a broader civic question. Are systems designed to protect the vulnerable consistently doing so? Perhaps the most emotionally charged portion came when survivors present in the room were asked about engagement with the Department of Justice. Their collective responses, indicating outreach attempts and willingness to testify, shifted the moment from partisan dispute to human impact. This is where hearings move beyond political combat and remind Americans that real lives sit behind policy debates.
Bondi's rebuttal pivoted away from the Epstein topic toward violent crime and immigration issues, highlighting another pattern Americans frequently see in political hearings, reframing the debate toward alternative priorities. That shift itself is instructive. It demonstrates how political communication often operates: redirect, contrast, and appeal to competing concerns rather than resolve the original question. Ultimately, what Americans witnessed wasn't simply shouting or spectacle. It was an illustration of institutional tension, Congress pressing for disclosure, executive officials defending decisions, and victims seeking recognition. These confrontations matter because they reveal how information flows through government and who has power to shape what the public sees. Moments like this should encourage Americans not just to react emotionally, but to engage critically, to examine evidence, understand legal processes, and demand clarity, regardless of political alignment. Because oversight, transparency, and accountability aren't partisan concepts. They're the foundation of democratic governments. If you believe more Americans deserve to see exchanges like this explained and unpacked, make sure to support independent political coverage. Share this breakdown and stay engaged, because informed citizens are the only real safeguard against government opacity.